Jabir ibn Hayyan, known in the Latin world as Jabir, stands as one of the most influential figures in the history of science and is widely celebrated as the father of early chemistry, a title earned not through legend alone, but through a lifetime devoted to experimentation, observation, and the systematic study of matter at a time when knowledge was often guided by speculation rather than evidence. Born around 721 CE in Tus, in present-day Iran, and later active in Kufa, Jabir lived during the golden age of Islamic civilization, a period marked by intellectual curiosity, translation of ancient texts, and the rapid expansion of scientific inquiry under the Abbasid Caliphate. His life coincided with an era when scholars were encouraged to seek knowledge as an act of worship, and Jabir embodied this spirit by combining spiritual reflection with rigorous scientific practice. Trained initially in religious studies and philosophy, Jabir later became a student of Imam Jafar al-Sadiq, whose teachings emphasized reason, balance, and the deep connection between nature and divine order, principles that would profoundly shape Jabir's scientific worldview. Unlike many thinkers before him, Jabir believed that true understanding of nature could only be achieved through direct experimentation, making him one of the earliest proponents of what would later become the scientific method. In a world where alchemy was often mystical and symbolic, Jabir transformed it into a disciplined experimental science by insisting on precise measurements, repeatable procedures, and careful documentation of results. He introduced and refined laboratory techniques that remain foundational even today, including distillation, crystallization, calcination, sublimation, evaporation, and filtration, and he designed or improved essential laboratory equipment such as the alembic, retort, crucible, and balance, tools that would be used by chemists for centuries. Jabir's extensive writings, traditionally said a number in the hundreds, covered an astonishing range of subjects including chemistry, medicine, pharmacology, metallurgy, astronomy, philosophy, and even ethics, reflecting the holistic nature and knowledge in the Islamic intellectual tradition. Among his most famous works are the Kitab Alchemy, Book of Chemistry, and Kitab al-Sabin, Book of 70, texts that explore the composition of substances, the transformation of materials, and the underlying principles governing matter. He proposed early theories about the composition of metals, suggesting that they were formed from combinations of sulfur and mercury in varying proportions and purities, an idea that influenced alchemical thought in both the Islamic world and medieval Europe for centuries. Jabir also made significant practical contributions, describing the preparation of strong acids such as nitric acid, sulfuric acid, and hydrochloric acid, as well as aqua regia, a powerful mixture capable of dissolving gold, a discovery that astonished later European alchemists and demonstrated the practical power of chemical knowledge. His work in applied chemistry extended to dyeing textiles, tanning leather, purifying metals, manufacturing glass, and developing inks and explosives, showing that science for Jabir was not merely theoretical, but deeply connected to industry and everyday life. Beyond his technical achievements, Jabir introduced a systematic classification of substances into categories, such as spirits, metals, and stones, an early attempt to organize chemical knowledge in a logical framework that prefigured later scientific classification systems. He also emphasized the importance of secrecy and ethical responsibility in scientific work, warning that powerful knowledge could be misused if placed in the wrong hands, a concern that resonates strongly in the modern age of advanced technology. Jabir's influence extended far beyond the Islamic world, as many of his works were translated into Latin from the 12th century onward, profoundly shaping the development of European alchemy and early chemistry, with scholars such as Roger Bacon and Albertus Magnus drawing inspiration from his methods and ideas. For centuries, the name Jabir was revered in Europe as an authority on chemical science, and even when debates arose about the authorship of some Latin texts attributed to him, there was little doubt that the intellectual tradition they represented traced its roots back to Jabir's original ideas and experimental approach. Despite the passage of time and the scarcity of detailed biographical records, Jabir ibn Hayyan's legacy remains unmistakable, not only in the techniques and concept he pioneered, but in the scientific attitude he championed, one that valued evidence over conjecture, patience over haste, and humility before the complexity of nature. His work exemplifies the spirit of the Islamic Golden Age, when scholars sought harmony between faith and reason, and viewed the study of the natural world as a means of understanding the wisdom of the Creator. Today, as modern chemistry continues to explore the building blocks of matter with tools far more advanced than those available in the 8th century, the foundational principles that guide laboratory practice still echo Jabir's insistence on experimentation, precision, and systematic inquiry. In recognizing Jabir ibn Hayyan as a pioneer of chemistry, we are not merely honoring a historical figure, but acknowledging a turning point in human thought, when the secret of matter began to yield not to mysticism or myth, but to careful observation and disciplined experiment, laying the groundwork for the scientific revolutions that would follow, and securing Jabir's place as one of the greatest minds in the history of science.
Let's begin the inspiring journey of Jabir ibn Hayyan, the world before Jabir, a time of discovery and mystery. Before Jabir ibn Hayyan was born, the Muslim world was entering a golden age of knowledge. It was the 8th century. The Abbasid Caliphate ruled with strength and vision. In Baghdad, a new thirst for learning was rising. Science, philosophy, and spirituality were not enemies. They were allies. But even in this exciting time, many mysteries remained. People wondered, what is the soul made of? Can metals be transformed? Can the heart be purified? There was confusion. Some gave answers without proof. Others feared what they could not explain. And in that world, a seeker of truth was born. His birth, family, and early influences. Jabir ibn Hayyan was born around 721 CE in the city of Tus, in what is now Iran. His full name was Abu Musa Jabir ibn Hayyan al-Azdi. His father, Hayyan al-Azdi, was a respected apothecary and a supporter of the Shia movement. But he was executed by the Umayyads when Jabir was still a child. This loss would shape Jabir's soul. He was raised in Kufa, a center of knowledge and debate. From a young age, he showed deep curiosity, not only for religion, but also for the secrets of nature and the universe. While other children played, Jabir read. He asked questions that had no easy answers, and he never stopped asking. His teachers, the role of Imam Jafar al-Sadiq. Among Jabir's many teachers, none was more important than Imam Jafar al-Sadiq, a master of both science and spirituality. Under his guidance, Jabir studied chemistry, cosmology, and Islamic philosophy. He learned that knowledge is not only for the mind, but also for the soul. Imam Jafar taught him that wisdom comes with humility, and that the goal of learning is purification. This early training shaped everything Jabir would become, and it gave him the foundation to explore far beyond traditional paths. The search for hidden knowledge. Jabir's thirst for truth led him beyond books and classrooms. He studied Greek science, Indian medicine, and Persian wisdom. He explored the teachings of Aristotle, Pythagoras, and Plato, while never turning away from the Quran. But Jabir didn't just study, he experimented. He spent days in his laboratory, testing minerals, mixing substances, observing changes. He believed that everything, even metals, had a soul and a destiny. Could lead become gold? Could the human heart be purified like copper in fire? For Jabir, chemistry was not just science, it was a path to truth. The lab of wonders, inside Jabir's experiments. Jabir ibn Hayyan's laboratory was not a place of magic. It was a place of method. He worked with real tools, crucibles, retorts, alembics for distillation, water baths, filters, and furnaces. He classified substances into 3 categories of spirits, which evaporate easily like camphor or mercury. Metals, like gold, silver, lead, and copper. Bodies, like stones and minerals. He developed processes like calcination, burning to break down material, sublimation, transforming solids directly into gas, crystallization, purifying materials into fine solid forms. Jabir kept detailed records of every step, every ratio, every result. His lab was more disciplined than many modern ones. But to him, the lab was not just physical, it was spiritual. It was a mirror of the universe. And every element he touched was a symbol of divine wisdom, the science of transformation. Jabir and alchemy. Jabir ibn Hayyan is known as the father of chemistry, but in his time, it was called alchemy. Alchemy was more than turning metals into gold. It was about transformation of matter and of the self. Jabir believed everything in the universe can be transformed if you understand its nature. He worked with metals, acids, and salts. He invented tools still used in chemistry today: distillation equipment, filters, crucibles, and retorts. But he also believed the soul must be purified like metal in a furnace. His laboratory was both a place of science and a temple of reflection, philosophy, mathematics, and spirituality. Jabir didn't separate science from spirituality. He believed numbers carried deep meanings, not just in mathematics, but in the universe. He wrote about the balance of the four elements: earth, water, air, and fire, the nature of heat and cold, the hidden relationship between matter and spirit. To Jabir, understanding nature meant understanding the will of the Creator. He once wrote, "The goal of the alchemist is not gold, it is wisdom." In every experiment, he saw a mirror of divine truth. Jabir's books, Between Science and Symbolism. Jabir ibn Hayyan wrote hundreds of works. Some say over 3,000 books. The most famous include Kitab al-Kimya, the Book of Chemistry; Kitab al-Sabin, the Book of 70; Kitab al-Ahjar, the Book of Stones; and the Emerald Tablet, a mystical text full of symbols. But his books were not easy to read. He often used code, symbols, and philosophical language. Why? Because he believed powerful knowledge must be protected only for those with the right intention. His books became a mystery that puzzled both Muslim and European scholars for centuries. Opposition, risks, and secrecy. Jabir's work was bold and dangerous. Some scholars thought alchemy was sorcery. Some rulers feared knowledge that could change power structures, so Jabir often worked in secret. He disguised his words, hid his meanings, and protected his writings. He faced accusations, suspicion, and isolation. But he never stopped, because for Jabir, truth was worth the risk. Jabir's legacy in the Muslim world. Even though his life was mysterious, his influence was clear. His students passed on his methods, his books were copied and translated. He became a symbol of Muslim science, combining logic, experiment, and spirituality. In cities like Baghdad, Cairo, and Cordoba, scholars built on his work. He laid the foundation for later scientists like Al-Razi, Ibn Sina, Avicenna, and Ibn al-Haytham. The Islamic Golden Age would not be complete without Jabir. Jabir's influence on alchemy in Europe. Many centuries after his death, Jabir's works crossed the sea and entered Europe. Latin translations of his books began to appear in Spain and Italy during the 12th century. There he became known as Geber. European alchemists studied his texts and called him the master. Scholars like Roger Bacon, Albertus Magnus, Thomas Aquinas, and later Paracelsus quoted ideas directly from Jabir's writings. They admired his methods of observation and his blend of reason and faith. One Latin book, Summa Perfectionis, was long believed to be written by Jabir, and it shaped alchemy across the West. Jabir showed Europe that alchemy was not superstition, but a rational, organized science guided by purpose and ethics. Without Jabir, European chemistry may have never left the shadows. Jabir's approach to ethics and knowledge. Jabir ibn Hayyan believed that knowledge was a gift, but also a responsibility. He often said, "Not every truth is for every ear." In his writings, he warned against using science for greed or power. That's why many of his works are symbolic or coded. He wanted to protect sacred knowledge from those who lacked wisdom or humility. To Jabir, a true scholar was not just intelligent, but honest, disciplined, and humble. He believed that the mind must be trained with logic, the soul must be purified through ethics, and the ego must be kept in check by service. He saw chemistry as a tool to improve the world, not to dominate it. He said, "Knowledge without ethics is fire in the hands of a child." And that is why, even with all his secrets, Jabir always reminded us, the heart must lead the hand. Why Jabir still matters today? Why does Jabir ibn Hayyan matter today? Because in a time of division, he united science and soul, faith and reason, the laboratory and the prayer mat. He teaches us that knowledge is sacred, when used for truth, not power. In a world full of noise and distraction, Jabir reminds us, real change begins in the self, and real discovery begins with wonder. His life shows that you don't need fame or power to change the world. You just need curiosity, courage, and clarity of heart. Final reflections and farewell. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life of Jabir ibn Hayyan. He was a man of silence and symbols, a chemist and a mystic, a seeker who believed that the smallest particle holds the key to the universe. Maybe you are a student, maybe you are just beginning your own journey. Whoever you are, remember this. Jabir ibn Hayyan was once a curious child, just like you. He asked questions, he made mistakes, he kept learning, and in the end, he became a light for the world. Final message and thank you. If you enjoyed this video, like it, subscribe to our channel, share it with someone who loves history, science, or Islamic knowledge. And in the comments, tell us, who should we explore next? Which Muslim scientist or thinker has inspired you the most? Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and never stop learning. Because the world doesn't just need more information, it needs more hearts like yours. See you in the next video.